Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. You know, roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? I want the man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West.
Internet. You know, is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
Welcome back to Auto Off Topic. What's up, Brad?
Oh, lots. All kinds of things. We haven't recorded in 2025 yet.
No, we haven't. So, welcome to 2025. No, we did record one, didn't we not? We had one episode. But it was so long ago we forgot.
Did we?
It's before you went on vacation.
Yeah, because I went on vacation for like 6 years.
Feels like it.
No, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like I never left. Like I'm back at work and it doesn't feel like I took any time off at all. And I was literally out of the country for 10 days.
It's been a long 2025. And it's
apparently.
January.
Yeah. It's almost over. January, that is. Oh, let's see. What is today? The 22nd, Wednesday, recording for Friday. So, yeah, I was gone. I went on a sailing adventure. That makes it sound way cooler than it is. I didn't sail anywhere. I was on a giant boat, just being weighted on hand and foot. No actual sailing with sails. Cruise ship time, cruise ship life. Had never done that before. It's interesting, Andrew. It's very interesting. It's a heck of a cross section of people. That's for sure.
What if we took an entire small town on vacation?
Yeah, that's basically it. I'm not okay. Let's real quick cruise ship talk. I've always been kind of anti cruise ship for lots of reasons. One is obviously, you know, as automotive enthusiasts, we get angry that people come after our hobby for the environmental reasons and leave things alone, like cruise ships. So, always kind of was like, well, it is what it is. Not big into it because of that. But anyway, did it. They spend a lot of time trying to convince you that it's good for the environment, which it's not, but that's okay. That's their job, I guess. But at least they are making improvements to make it better for the environment. So that's good. It was Naomi's birthday and she wanted to kind of blow it out. So she decided we're going to go on a cruise ship for 10 days in the Gulf of Mexico, on the east coast of Mexico into Belize and Honduras. And that's what we did. So not something I'm going to do all the time, but I will say that if you get the chance to do a cruise, Andrew, I think that you would probably actually enjoy it. So
maybe.
Listen, I was anti it right up until we were on the boat, and I had a good time pretty quickly. Again, it's not something I want to do all the time because it's not for me all the time. I was making a joke on the boat that, and if this offends anybody, I don't care. So I'm sorry, but I'm not really. People who only vacation on cruise ships are people who only eat at Applebee's.
Sounds accurate.
Yeah, they know that it's simple, it's easy. They know what they're getting. It's the same experience every time. It's not terribly expensive, and it exists. So that's kind of how I explained it. But that being said, as somebody who occasionally eats at an Applebee's, I will occasionally go on a cruise ship. So I had a good time, and that's it's interesting because you get waited on hand and foot all week long. You know, dinners are like the wait staff is basically there to take care of you, so it's almost like you feel like you're a rich person for a while, even though you're just kind of cosplaying as a rich boat person. But it's all right. It was a good time. It was neat to see part of the world I wouldn't get to see otherwise. Getting to see the ruins in Progreso, Mexico, like the Mayan temples. Chichen Itza, this one is called. You've seen pictures of it over my whole life, and it's really cool to like walk up in front of it and see this ancient building. And we went to other ruins in Costa Maya,
just like the Nickelodeon show.
Yes, yeah, I ran around inside, and no, not at all. It is cool that like the history down there is pretty amazing. Like, a tour guide was telling us about the layout of some of the land down there. It's completely flat. There's no hills. There's no mountains. But if you look out into the fields, it's covered in hills and mountains. And
yeah, it's a bunch of them they haven't discovered yet, quote unquote.
No, they were saying that every hill you see has ruins under it.
Yeah.
And the reason that they haven't been dug up is because they're on private land. And basically what happens is the government says you can live there and you can leave it alone and not touch it. But the second you start to excavate it, we're going to come in and take it back and designate it as a landmark because we don't want it to be exposed without being cared for. So they kind of look at it as if the land is privately owned, you can live there and you can leave the ruins alone that are underneath because they're being preserved by the earth. And if somebody were to expose it, it would not be preserved anymore and it would be open for, looting or vandalism or whatever. So landowners just leave it alone. Very neat. And there's obviously some that they do dig up from time to time, and they're still uncovering new stuff all the time. Like we were at one of the ones in Costa Maya, and the particular one was like 3 months ago they discovered this thing and they started digging it up like 3 months ago. Very cool stuff. But yeah,
they use a lot of LiDAR now, and it can scan through all the trees and stuff. They can actually map a lot of the stuff without taking trees
actually
away.
digging it up. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, we learned about LiDAR from our obsession with Oak Island.
Yes, exactly.
So, but anyway, it was cool. Got to cross off, I've been to Mexico before, but got to cross off Belize and Honduras from my list of countries I've been to. So, and outside,
I haven't been to South America, so that's pretty good.
Neither have I. I've been to Central America.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that is Central America. Huh.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty far down. Like Honduras is pretty far down there. But it's interesting. It's eye-opening for sure. And I'll say that the biggest part of cruise ship that bothered me a little bit was dropping in on these countries that have nothing, pulling up to the dock, going out into their country, seeing people begging for food and rolling away or floating away in a boat that I know has enough food to feed most of that damn country. That was a little bit hard on my brain. But if I didn't do it, somebody else would have. So yeah, it was an experience. And to bring it back to cars real fast, lots of cool stuff down there that we don't have up here. I was in Progreso, and we took a 2-hour drive to where the ruins are from the port. And, I was just obviously obsessed with looking at random car-based pickups from every manufacturer and small to mid-sized pickups from every manufacturer. I did see one like Hot Rod Datsun 510 cruising around. Beetles, obviously, everywhere. Volkswagen Beetles everywhere. We did. I forget where we were. Probably Cozumel, and we went to a resort, like an all-inclusive resort for the day, and we took a cab back to the ship, and it was a Mitsubishi Expander.
What on earth is that?
Well, I'll tell you what, I saw them around everywhere, and when one pulled up as a cab, and we were the only people left waiting for a cab back to the boat, and it was a Mitsubishi, I was joyous because I always want to ride in random Mitsubishis. I'd have to say it's like the spiritual successor to the Expo LRV.
Okay.
So it's a little mini MP. It's an MPV, so it's not quite a minivan. Doesn't have sliding doors. It has 4 doors. It's like a tall station wagon, but not tall as in ground clearance. Tall as in like roof height.
Yeah.
So very neat little vehicle. It's a small engine. I forget what engine it was. Nothing fancy, just a 4-cylinder. But what's cool is I was digging into it, and in one country they made one called the something Expander R4
Expander Evo?
or something. Basically an Expander Evo, and it has a de-stroked 4B11.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's instead of a 2-liter, it's a 1.6, and it makes like 350 horsepower.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not something that's like you can go buy, but they made it for like some sort of racing series. So I was like, that's rad. I want that one. So yeah, it's nothing that like, I desire to own one, but it's neat to have ridden in a random out of market Mitsubishi. It's funny, I was talking to the driver because as I do about cars, and he was very interested in talking about it actually because he liked it a lot. And he likened it to, he goes, "Do you remember the brand Datsun?" I was like, I do.
Sorta.
He's like, that's what I like about it. He goes, "It's very simple, like an old Datsun." I was like, "Oh, okay." So he said, "You open the engine?" He's like, "Change spark plugs, 10 minutes." So I saw no resemblance to anything Datsun other than it's a 4-cylinder, but it was a neat experience. So it's odd to me that they don't try to sell stuff like that here, because why wouldn't
Yeah.
it exists? I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. They sell it in so many other parts of the world. It's already on this continent. That was in Mexico. Just get it emissions approved and send it. But yeah, that's
Not
about
sure.
the only car stuff that happened. So yeah, I would 100% recommend cruise ship for somebody. I had a really good time, and didn't think I would until I did. So, they're going to be out there anyway. And if you don't go on it, somebody else will. So whatever.
It's true.
But anyways,
Well-
yeah, that's why we haven't recorded for a while, because I haven't been around.
Speaking of old polluting clunk buckets, what have you worked on?
Ouch. That one hurts. That hurts, Andrew. Let's see. Project car update time, huh? Cressida. I think I mentioned last time I drove it, it made a really weird noise in the rear and started grinding like crazy in the rear brakes. So I
thought that happened at the Japanese car show.
So that was the right side.
Oh, okay.
So the right side, it blew the wheel cylinder the night before we were leaving to head to California. That's what happened on that side. It had previously broken a spring inside the drum. So I just fixed that right side at the time, and we drove to California, and it's been fine ever since, so I never fixed the left side. Well,
that's Brad math.
Honestly, it wasn't that I didn't want to do it. It was just we fixed it in an emergency to go to California with it to make it to JCCS. That was when we met you there, actually. And
okay,
it got there, it got back, everything was fine. And then I just kind of didn't think about it because nothing else was broken. And it wasn't like I had replaced drums or shoes. It was just a couple of parts inside there. So I just kind of let it ride. Well, the same thing happened to the left side. I was driving home from probably 4 till 4, I think, a couple weeks ago. And actually more than a couple weeks ago, it was probably late November. And coming down my street, it made a big clunk and then a grinding noise. And I opened it up, and there was absolutely brake fluid leaking from the brake cylinder, but the grinding noise was exactly what had happened on the other side. The return spring, the one that stretches from shoe to shoe across the whole assembly, had snapped and was just in the bottom. So I don't know if it was the last time brakes were done on the car, it was just a poor set of springs that were put in there, or what. But the shoes and the drums were in good shape still. And so I just did the same as the other side. I slapped in the new spring and I put a new, excuse me, I put a new brake cylinder in it, blew the brakes, and car stops good again. So simple repair. I did that the day we got back to Phoenix from the cruise to kind of get back in the groove of car stuff. Let's see. What else have I done? The Dodge Ram 50, the Mighty Max. It had very dim headlights. So I checked to make sure that there was 12 volts going to the headlights, and there were. So I knew it was not any issue other than just old headlight bulbs. So I bought a couple of bulbs.
Sounds
yeah. Took the retaining rings off, and the bulbs literally fell apart. They're a sealed beam, and the seal was no longer sealing, so they were just kind of full of grit and dirt, and there was no reflective quality left, and the lens kind of fell off the base. Yeah, it reminded me of the Volkswagen Beetle you guys had the issue with the taillight when you thought it was dim and it was just full of dirt.
My mom's Beetle?
Yeah, when you first got it.
Oh, yeah.
You guys thought the light was dim, and you went to take it apart to investigate it, and there was no seal on the lens, and it was just literally full of desert dirt. So you cleaned it, and it was all better.
I forgot about that.
Yep. So it was the same kind of thing happened here. The headlights were just old, the seals had gone bad, any reflective quality was kind of gone, and they were just full of dirt. So putting new headlights in it solved the dim headlight problem. I did get one souvenir while I was in Mexico. Actually, technically 2. I bought 2 Mexican blankets, matching Mexican blankets that are like white and tan and gray stripes to kind of match the color combination that's on that Dodge Ram 50, because the seat is worn and it's threadbare. And when you sit on it, you get covered in like this shiny dust from the seat falling apart.
Ew.
So I covered the seat in this Mexican blanket that we bought for, I think, 800 pesos, which is like, it was 400 pesos. It's the equivalent of $8 for 2 blankets. So we picked those up and covered the seat. And now the seat is nice and comfortable. As far as the seat itself goes, the seating position still is not great. But I also did some digging in that, and I shot some pictures back and forth with Josh to compare the sliders and everything to what's in his truck. Now, he has aftermarket seats in his. He has a pair of Recaros that came out of an Alfa Romeo, I think, in his. But he knew what it's supposed to look like, and we were looking at the seat, and it seems to be that... So mini trucks were a huge thing in the 80s and 90s, and there was like tons of aftermarket support, like almost like owning a Jeep. And one of the things you could buy were aftermarket seats. So looking at this seat and comparing how it mounts, and looking at pictures of other Ram 50s and catalog pictures of Ram 50s, the seat in my truck is not factory. It looks like it's an aftermarket seat from in period, which explains why it has that flip and fold armrest with cup holders. I thought that was maybe custom made by a previous owner, but it looks like it's all part of some sort of aftermarket seat assembly. But because it's a universal seat, the brackets that are on it are meant to direct bolt to the floor, but they're bolted to the sliders. So it's probably 5 inches higher than it should be.
Oh, that's
which
a
is
lot.
why it's why it's super awkward sitting in there. So I sat in Josh's truck, which has the aftermarket seats bolted directly to the factory sliders, and it's immediately more comfortable. And not just the seat itself, like the way your legs are positioned, the way your ankle has to be to operate the gas pedal. It's just tons more comfortable.
Is it
So,
better than a Tacoma?
I don't have much seat time in a modern Tacoma. I couldn't tell you.
They feel like your legs are straight out and you're sitting with your butt in the floor.
Well, I can tell you right now that my truck is the opposite of that, because it feels like my knees can't bend any further in and my ankle can't bend any further up. So I'm like completely scrunched into the vehicle. His truck does not feel like my legs are straight out. No. So it's much more comfortable. I'll put it that way. So I was thinking I was going to have to modify the gas pedal to make it more comfortable, but in looking at the seat, we're going to be able to modify that seat base and chop probably 3 or 4 inches out of it and bring it much closer to the floor, and it should be able to work much, much, much better. Worst case scenario, we can take the sliders out, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a small truck. The seat all the way back is really all it needs to be. I don't know anybody who would need to push the seat forward, because you'd have to be like 3'6" in order to have to slide the seat forward. So also where it's at right now, it's so tall that the steering wheel literally rubs my pant legs, like my legs. Like it's constant contact with me. So it's definitely too tight in there. So that'll be fixed. We kind of did a brainstorming session on that. Also, after doing the headlights, I drove it to Josh's house to look at it some more and to do some other stuff with him and Mike on a Porsche race car. But we looked at it there, and that was our conclusion of what we're going to do. But the important thing there is I drove it all the way to and from Josh's house, which is about 30 miles each way, all highway, and cruised the thing at like 75 miles an hour the whole way there and back. Maybe 70. But it had no issues at all, and that's its first like successful long trip. Before that trip, I'd only driven a grand total of 75 miles over 3 weeks and came home on a tow truck 1 out of 2 trips. So I think we now successfully have a good running vehicle. So
that's good.
Yeah. So all positive car updates here. Now I need to move on to some other stuff. So how about you? Have you worked on anything in the Arctic blast of New England?
No, because it's been below freezing for like 3 weeks, so I haven't worked on anything. They did call me, tell me the engine's basically ready to be picked up, but they're waiting for the crankshaft to come back.
Excellent.
And he just wanted to double check with me that I wanted it painted red like the head. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Paint it red for me.
Yeah, might as well.
I have to do it.
Yeah. The amount they charge for that, considering what you've already paid, is probably not much anyway, so screw it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just waiting for them to call me back, let me know it's ready. Hopefully next week I'll go pick it up and start putting it together.
That'd be cool.
That's really all I'm waiting on. Yeah.
Again, it'd be great to get that done, over the winter so that you have maximum time to enjoy it next driving season.
Basically, yeah.
Awesome. I have another story. I'm not working on it, but Naomi's daughter Courtney has a 2017 Sonata.
Yep.
204,000 miles on it. And as Hyundai Sonatas with 4 cylinders do, it started burning oil.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and talked to a person I knew at a Kia dealer and asked him what the deal was, because I was pretty sure there was either an extended warranty or a class action lawsuit that made Hyundai have to replace these engines. And he said that you cannot get a replacement engine until it either is constantly knocking or is seized completely. So I said, okay. And we
Challenge
just
accepted.
challenge accepted. No, we just kept, maintaining it as normal and driving as normal and checking the oil and making sure it had oil in it. So while we were on the boat, actually, we got a call from Courtney that her engine was knocking. So when we came back, we started it up, and sure enough, it wasn't constantly knocking, but it would knock, and then it would idle and go away, and then put it back under a load, and it would knock again. So we went over to the local Hyundai dealer and thankfully got a very good service writer. So one thing that I was not told was that they will not cover an engine if you haven't been up to date on your recalls.
Yeah.
One of those recalls is a knock sensor, a new design knock sensor.
Okay.
So they're like, she's like, listen, she's like, you have to put a knock sensor in it under recall. And she goes, your engine's not knocking all the time. The engine needs to either be knocking all the time, completely seized, blown apart in a million pieces, or the check engine light needs to be flashing. But none of that will be any good if you don't have the new recalled knock sensor. And I was like, that's interesting, because it's obviously knocking. The knock sensor is not going to fix the knocking. It's not knocking because it needs to be advanced or retarded timing. It's knocking because it's broken. So, But, I think it was kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod. Do this recall first.
They also get paid for it, so they're like, whatever.
100%, which is why she probably said, like, wink, wink, nod, nod. Do this recall first, and we'll get you taken care of. Yeah. So we did the recall. That was this past Monday. Got the car back Tuesday. She drove it to work, and driving home, obviously when it was knocking, the check engine light started flashing, which is one of the things that the service writer said, hey, the check engine light flashing is a reason to bring it in to get a new engine. So my thought
maybe
is the new knock sensor.
Because the knock sensor, the knock sensor is going insane.
Yeah, the new knock sensor is probably, has a different range of reading or whatever, and it goes insane, and it says, I can't fix this. I'm going to flash this check engine light. So it did. But interestingly, the old one did not. So
I don't know. It's not sensitive enough or something.
Yeah,
it's not knocking from low octane. It's knocking because the rod is loose or whatever.
It's knocking because the bearings are wiped out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we brought it back yesterday, and she said, okay, what we have to do now is we have to put it up in the air. She's like, we have to check the bearing clearance. She goes, the bearing clearance is,
that sounds so annoying.
So annoying. If the bearing clearance is, such and such, whatever. She's like, and we can, prove that you've maintained it and have oil changes. Which she's like, well, I don't have like all of my records for all of my oil changes, but they were always done at like an oil change place, so they should be by VIN number able to pull it up through like Carfax or something, right? So, yeah. So she goes, all right, well, we'll call you tomorrow. So actually, just before we recorded tonight on a Wednesday, the service writer called and said, good news, your engine is seized. So, well, not seized, but replaceable, because the knocking is bad enough. So, the good news is that she'll get a brand new engine in her 204,000 mile Hyundai, paid for by Hyundai. And she gets to loan her car while it's in the shop.
That was that's a Southwestern car, right?
I think I don't remember if she bought it here or Oklahoma. I think she bought it here.
Well, they're not a big Rust Belt state, and either way. I'm just thinking
Oklahoma, there's no rust in the car at all.
So I'm just thinking, like, if you and I 15 years ago worked at a Hyundai dealer and they were doing this.
Sure.
And you had people coming in with a 200,000 mile Hyundai from New England to get a new engine.
Right.
It'd be like, throw the car away.
Yeah.
Because it would be rotted out around this engine that the poor techs trying to replace. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be worth it.
Well, think about it. The earliest vehicles affected by this recall, do you know what year it was?
I feel this is a trick question. Let's say 98.
Oh God, not that old. No, 2010.
No? Okay.
So
Okay.
2010 through 2020, Hyundai vehicles with the Theta 2 engines. So that's basically it's the 2.0 and the 2.4 four cylinders. So it's Santa Fe, Sonata, Tucson, Elantra, and Veloster.
So this is post Mitsubishi 4-cylinder. There's your problem.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. So yeah, there's been quite an issue here. So what the funny thing is that the vehicle we traded in for the Maverick, the vehicle we had before the Maverick, Naomi had a 2011 Sonata that she had since like 20,000 miles in 2012. And she got a new engine at 147,000 or 140 something thousand. So we've experienced this before. But hers was earlier on, before the class action lawsuit was settled. But yeah, she got one brand new quite a few years ago because she put another 100,000 miles on hers with the new engine before she got rid of it. So that's the hope here, because the rest of Courtney's car is in good enough shape. Like, it's not, again, there's no rust here. You know, it's just maintenance at that point. Brakes and suspension. What else do you need, right? So basically, she gets a brand new car, which is good because I didn't want to pay to put an engine in it. So
yeah, no, it's just wild to me. You and I have put engines in enthusiast cars, but like, just like replacing the engine in a total appliance car.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's not an old car at this point either. It's a 2017, so it's not 10 years old yet. So, a good majority of vehicles from 2017 are still financed. Somebody bought it in 2020.
Yeah.
It's 5 years old at the end of finance. They bought it 2022. They're only 2.5 years into their financing of a 4-year-old car. At the engine, let's go. That's a huge financial burden, because now you have something that's worth nothing and you have a loan still on the vehicle. So I can certainly see why Hyundai had to do this, because it's obviously their fault if you can prove the motor was maintained, and it's happening to so many of them. It's not like it's a, once every so often it happens. Like, this is almost every 4-cylinder Hyundai it happens to. So obviously the lady at the dealer knew how to make it work, and she made it work. And now we get a new engine, and here we are. So it's good. So, and she's going to get, her loaner is going to be a Santa Cruz. So
wow,
it'll be interesting to compare the Santa Cruz with the Maverick. So yeah, so a happy ending to a car almost blowing up story.
Yeah, there you go.
So thanks Hyundai.
All right, motorsports. While you were away, after right at the beginning of the new year, it was Dakar time, so they're in Saudi Arabia again. Did you get to watch any of it or catch up with any of it?
So I didn't watch any of it on the trip because I had no internet for 9 days. I have watched some since I've been back. It's been a little bit harder to watch it because normally I like to watch the car as it's happening, but already knowing what happens makes it harder to like actually want to sit down and watch it. So I've watched some highlights. Yes.
Are you watching on YouTube or like the Peacock app or something?
I'm watching it on the Dakar YouTube channel.
Okay. I wonder if they have separately on the Peacock. I was watching on there instead of when it was on cable, like NBC Sports a couple years ago, there were only like half-hour episodes. On Peacock, they did 48, 50-minute episodes.
Yeah, I
And about
definitely didn't
halfway,
watch those.
yeah, about halfway through, they did little vignettes on older Dakars. So I wonder if they have released those separately on like their YouTube channel or something. They're pretty cool. I forget the woman's name. They're talking to some French woman who rode a motorcycle during the first one in '79, and like is like the highest woman finisher. I think she finished like 10th overall. After they nearly all got lost in the desert because there was a giant sandstorm.
Yeah, the
They couldn't
first
see
one
each
was
other.
a mess.
And then they did one. It was a spotlight on like the is it Sichuan, the Maharis, the little beach cars. Is that a Sichuan? You know what I'm talking about?
Top of my head, I mean, kind of.
The Maharis, right? The little beach cars.
Yes.
So they used those as for the second, maybe I think that maybe the second Dakar. They used those as medic cars. So
Yes.
basically, those ran the entire Dakar. And like that was kind of cool. And they have one still in the Sichuan Museum with it still has like dust in it, like they'll like under the spare tire, it has all the dirt and stuff left over. But they had several, of course, in the '90s of Mitsubishi. I think it was '97. They had a really really hard stage through the dunes, and the Mitsubishi team was the only team that actually made it through the dunes. The Sichuans that were running that year didn't make it. But then they protested. They got the stage thrown out, and they're like, "What the hell? Like, we actually made it!" Like,
yeah, your car sucked, not the stage. We made it through. That's wild.
So there's a bunch of cool stuff like that. And they did a lot of cool coverage on some of the smaller teams and on some of the Dakar Classic teams, which we'll get to. That was cool. While I'm thinking of it, one of the guys that was running the Land Rover in Dakar Classic, the long wheelbase one, it was like the green one with the white roof. The driver is, come to find out, connected to the company I rented the car at the ring from.
Oh, okay.
Ring Freaks. Yeah, he like runs it or is the manager or something, or he owns it. So that was kind of cool. But anyway,
1978, Martin de Cortanazzi was the first, the place 19th, and there were 7.
Yeah.
There were 34 motorcycles in the first one. 7 of them were ridden by women, all French.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, like motocross and like cross country riding is like, I think, big in France. Because then there was the 1980 Dakar, the little story. Vespa entered 4 scooters.
I've seen scooters. Images of the Vespas in the desert, and it looks wild.
Those were all French riders.
Okay.
Only 2 of them finished, but still, 2 of them finished. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, to think that you did that on a Vespa, like, completely unforgiving.
Yeah. So now, in 2025, it's Dakar only in name, because it is completely in Saudi Arabia. It's been in Saudi Arabia the last couple of years, but it was completely in Saudi Arabia. And interestingly, as a little aside, there's the Africa Eco Race, which happened at the same time that race from Paris to Dakar. So a competing desert rally style race. But I only saw coverage of it on Instagram, so I'll have to look into that some more.
Original Paris to Dakar?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is the one that Kenjiro was trying to do before he passed away. He wanted to do that. He was trying to raise money to run the Africa Eco Race because it is the spiritual successor to Dakar.
Right. Because Dakar is not Dakar anymore.
Yeah, it's just in name. They just use the name because desert racing, cross country, rally raid is huge in the Middle East because obviously the
Terrain. Yeah.
terrain makes it perfect for it. It looks, it's all the same. So, this year's Dakar was really, really hard for a lot of competitors, a lot of top competitors. Like they had the prologue, which is the first sort of shakedown stage.
It's a stage that doesn't
kind
count.
of sets.
Yeah.
It sets the starting order though. And then they had the first stage. And then they had the second stage was the chrono stage, which harkened back to earlier versions of Dakar, where the competitors have to do 2 stages, so 2 days, 48 hours, with no outside assistance. So they had to run. I guess they had checkpoints set up. You just drove until 5 p.m. In that time zone, whatever that time zone is. And then whichever closest checkpoint you're at, that's where you stopped. That way they knew where everybody was.
Yeah.
So most of the top people made it to the last checkpoint, but other people who aren't pro teams and pro riders or whatever didn't get that far. So they had to stop wherever they stopped. But that's where they do, everybody's using tents. It doesn't matter if you're the factory drivers for Ford, Dacia, whatever, you're sleeping outside in tents. There's no campers, none of that stuff.
I did notice that it looked like people were bringing the tents to them. Like the motorcyclists didn't ride with the tents on their backs.
Yeah, they at least do that for them. They don't make them ride with the tents.
Wimps.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the original category. So it was interesting this year. You had Dacia had 3 vehicles the first time they were running. Did you see them? They're really kind of weird looking.
Yeah, they're odd looking.
Dacia Sand Riders, which I think Dacia is Indian. I forget now.
I think it's French.
Is it French?
Well, I know they share a lot of cars with Citroën. Or Renault, because because the famous Top Gear car, the Dacia Duster that James May always talks about, is also a Renault Duster.
Romanian car manufacturer.
Okay.
Interesting. So yeah, they
or Dacia Sandero is the Renault Duster or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Apologize that my Romanian car knowledge is not not at the highest level.
Yeah, but anyway, they developed this whole prototype car, the Dacia Sand Rider. It had 3 top drivers. You had Nasser Al-Attiyah, who's won Dakar a bunch.
Yep.
Sebastian Loeb, who's won a ton of rallies. And off the top of my head, I can't remember if he's won a Dakar yet. I think he's come really close. I know he keeps trying. And Chris Torto, the woman, she's from Spain. She used to drive the side-by-side things, and then got promoted up to run the Dacias, but ended up doing, because she was the third car, doing a lot of support for Al-Attiyah and Loeb, because Loeb kept crashing, and eventually Loeb crashed out on the 3rd or 4th day, which was pretty surprising, but it felt like they were pushing really hard or something. And
so just to go back,
yeah.
Dacia is actually pronounced Dacia.
Dacia?
Dacia. And their first cars, when they first were founded in the 60s, were licensed Renaults. And then at some point, all through the 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, they were all just Renaults. But then in the 90s, they started making their own cars, but they were mostly powered by Volkswagen. And then in the early 2000s or late 90s, they were purchased by Renault and now are a division of Renault. So that's why I thought they were French.
Yeah.
Because they've basically always been French. So, yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Well, you've got. I've definitely heard people say Dacia though, right?
Listen, some people say Porsche, and some people say Porsche, Jaguar, and Jaguar. Like, I just know that when I
Yeah.
was watching the coverage of the event, when they were talking to the drivers of the Sand Riders, they were pronouncing it Dacia, and I just looked it up, and it says the pronunciation is Dacia.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically DA.
I thought I heard the announcer saying Dacia.
Well, they could have also been wrong. But again, like I said, what's right, Jaguar or Jaguar? What's right, Porsche or Porsche? What's right, Renault or Renault? So,
all right. So from now on, it's Toyota.
Yeah, Toyota.
Toyota.
As Art says.
Toyota. Yeah, you've got top teams. You got Toyota, Ford, Mini.
Excuse me, Andrew. It's Fjord.
Fjord.
Yes.
But it's kind of cool because so these are the cars category, which are really just like kind of like trucks, but
I mean they're tube framed rally buggies with sort of a body shell that resembles something that's in production.
Well, it's like the Toyota looks like a Toyota pickup truck. The Ford Raptor.
Yeah.
The Toyota is the one that looks the most like a Toyota pickup truck. The Ford Raptor, it's cool looking, but it's like the grill is like a Ford Raptor. The rest of it is just like this Batmobile looking thing.
Yeah, and the Mini is very similar to it.
The Mini actually looks like a Mini, but it's just like a jack. Like if you put a Mini on a monster truck chassis.
It looks like a Mini that was built for the next Mad Max movie.
Yeah. But anyway, it's pretty cool that Ford entered a full factory back team with 3 cars. With Ekstrom and Carlos Sainz, and I forget who the third driver
did
was.
Not do well.
No, he did really well. He did really poorly. He was pushing really hard and rolled the truck during the chrono stage. Drove it with like no body work, no windshield. They finished the chrono stage, and then the FIA said, "Sorry, the cage is broken.
Yeah, there was too much damage to the cage.
We're not going to let you fix it." And that's actually what happened to Loeb too. They damaged the cage enough. They just said, "No, you can't keep."
I mean, which stinks for the team, but it makes sense. Like the cage is built to FIA regulations, and it gets damaged in competition. You can't fix it in the side of the road in the desert and still have it be as strong as it was before.
Yeah.
So I get it. So the Sand Rider is the Dacia. And I just looked up real quick to see what it was based on, to see if it was based on a production car. And it's not. It's based on their concept SUV called the Manifesto.
Yep. Yeah, the cars class can be prototypes. It doesn't really matter.
But do you know what it's powered by?
I don't.
Okay. VR30 DTT.
VR30 DTT.
Infinity Q50.
Oh, weird.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good, actually.
Well, listen. Well, Nissan and Renault are now in bed together, and if Renault owns Dacia, that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
So it's all coming together there. But yeah, it's a VR30 DDTT. And the race version, they don't make a ton of power. I thought they would make like, some ridiculous amount of power, but it's like 350 horse.
Yep. But shout out to Seth Quintero, who's an American driving a Toyota. He won a stage, a couple stages actually. But in the cars, eventually, it was in a Toyota. Yazid Al Raji just kind of built up a huge lead, and then nobody seemed to be able to catch him after 2 weeks. So it's quite impressive to keep up that.
It's just impressive that they run for 2 weeks. Like
it is
7,700 kilometers. It's so far.
Yep. And then the time, like at the end, 52 minutes. Oh, sorry, 52 hours, 52 minutes.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's like driving from Boston to LA and then back to like Oklahoma City
yeah, at top speed.
at top speed with no road.
Yeah.
Wild.
So it's pretty impressive, yeah. And and Ford did pretty well. They ended up third overall at the end for their first time out with a factory car. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see how Ford does next year with that Raptor.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they did well the first year, so hopefully build on that. But Dacia didn't do terrible either in their first year out. So
it's just interesting, the type of the sort of thing that they have to do, where you don't always want to win a stage. Sometimes you want to take a stage win, but if you win a stage, then the next day you have to open the stage. And if you have to open the stage and there's no tracks to follow and you have to do all your own navigation,
which might be good because people get lost and then everybody gets lost together.
Yeah, but you can lose a lot of time as you're trying to open the stage and basically clean the road off.
Yep.
So
it's the great equalizer.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's not always advantageous to win every single stage because then you have to open the stage.
Yep.
So people will play games where they get out really far and then slow down, and so it's an interesting test of like endurance and car building. And so, but I noticed this year, maybe it was last year, they got away from the quads. There's no more quads. It's just bikes.
Yeah, they have bikes and side-by-sides.
Well, there's Challenger T3, which is those purpose-built things. They're all the same. They're whatever this chassis is, it's a Taurus.
Yep.
And they're all the same. They're basically a spec class.
86 Ford Taurus.
Yeah, I'm kind of like meh on it. It's just like some 4x4 thing. It looks like a full-bodied side-by-side sort of. It's weird. But I think it's a whole class in Rally Raid, like a spec class.
SSV class is side-by-sides.
Yes. So what I'm talking about is Challenger T3 is these Taurus things.
Yep.
Like a spec class. Then you get the SSV T4, which is the side-by-side, which is interesting as they're struggling to sell side-by-sides. They are going racing with them. So it's just Polaris and Can-Am just battling at Dakar, which is not something I would have ever thought would happen, but here we are.
Well, I mean, they're probably trying to market them to other parts of the world that maybe don't have as much of a presence there. They're at a point of saturation in the States because it's a toy and it's a $20,000 toy. So it's the kind of thing that once somebody has one, they're not going to go buy one every few years. Some people obviously do, but most people just buy one and keep it for a long time. So they're just kind of at a point of saturation here.
It's interesting though, because they did originate in America and people started racing them in Baja. A lot of the drivers from here have crossed over and done Dakar with them.
Yep.
And they do really well. So like Brock Heger,
yeah.
Actually won the whole Dakar on a Polaris. But you've also got Sarah Price, did really well, won a few stages in a Can-Am. So,
and what's wild about them is they're not much change from a production version.
Yeah, they really aren't.
That's how good these things are off-road. That's why whenever I talk about being in one, I feel like it's cheating. Like it's just so good at driving off-road.
Then I don't know much about the trucks, but apparently it's all Ivecos.
Are they all Ivecos now?
There's a Tatra. There's one Tatra. I'm looking at the results and it's all Ivecos. I see one Tatra. But yeah.
So there used to be, the cool thing about the trucks, there's other ones here. If you go to the entry list, there's Iveco, Tatra, Hino, Scania, MAN.
So they still do use them.
Volvo.
there's racing trucks and then there's fast assistance trucks.
Yep.
Those they're also in there racing. So, like, all of the big teams have fast assistant trucks.
Sure, but
So-
even the big trucks, the way the class started was it was
Mhm.
the support vehicles racing each other as well. So
Yeah.
but yeah, there's quite a few brands. Like I said, Iveco, Tatra, Hino, there's even a Volvo, a DAF. So there's a few out there. So they just didn't all win. And then good.
I want to talk about the bikes though, real quick.
Okay.
So Daniel Sanders, just absolute dominant performance, especially against. So Ricky Brayback won last year.
Yep.
So he was trying to go for a back-to-back.
Which hasn't been done for quite some time, I think.
Yeah. And Daniel Sanders just kind of went out on the first stage and won the second stage.
See the Australian kid?
Yes.
Okay.
I wouldn't say he's a kid. He's probably
Australian guy.
late 20s. And he won like, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. He won 4 stages, but basically just put up such a huge lead that nobody could catch him towards the end.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, he's US. Oh no, he's Australian. Never mind. I'm
Australian.
looking up now. He's Australian. Yeah, I was right. Yeah, he's 30.
He might live here and practice. Who knows?
Well, no, he rides for a KTM US team, which is why I thought he was American, but he's actually Australian.
Yeah. And Ricky Brayback only won 1 stage, but had a pretty rough rally.
Well, it's hard to stop a KTM. Now they've won so many years out there in the desert. So at one point they won like
it's interesting
19 straight or something.
Because then they went out of business or filed for bankruptcy.
They filed for insolvency,
Yeah.
which is like European bankruptcy. It's not exactly the same. It gives them time to pay back their creditors, and they might not go under. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not
a shame because they have such a great racing history and pedigree. But
yeah, they're not a very well known brand in the States, but worldwide they're a huge brand, and they do sell them here. In fact, I worked at a motorcycle dealer many, many, many years ago, and we were a KTM dealer. They're very cool bikes. If they weren't expensive, I might have bought one instead of a Royal Enfield.
Yeah. But, and then before I get to my favorite class, they also did the Mission 1000, which was alternative power vehicles.
Okay. I didn't see anything on that.
So, wildly, Segway had their own Dakar motorcycle.
Okay. I just learned recently they were building motorcycles.
Yeah. This thing's all set up for Dakar, fully electric. And they had some video of it running, and it's just like spooky because they're just like super quiet. They're just like riding it through the desert. There's a couple of things that were, so basically it was only, they had the electric bike, a hydrogen powered, like that Taurus vehicle that's like a side by side, but not quite. And then they had a MAN truck that was hydrogen powered.
Okay.
As just examples of alternative vehicles. So that was the 3 vehicles, one of each style in the class.
What was the range of the motorcycle? Do you know?
As sort of a exhibition type thing. I don't know. Maybe I think that's why it was Mission 1000. I think it's like it was lower mileage for them to make it. So
yeah, I'll have to look into that because I don't know anything about that. Interesting. Didn't know anything about it.
Yeah. But my favorite class that they brought out a few years ago, and it's only gotten cooler, is the Classics class. So do you know anything about this?
I do. I know it's not a flat out high speed. It's more of like a time speed distance. They're still
Yes.
going quickly. They're not going slow, that's for sure. And I know there are a couple of classes within the class. There's like 86 to 98, 99 plus, and pre 86.
Yeah. So it's interesting. They did say that they will adjust, if the navigation is a little bit easier, they will raise the average speed. If it's more difficult, they'll lower the average speed. So to try to keep it interesting so that people don't get bored. Because they're, unlike the TSDs we do, they are doing that in full cars with full roll cages,
Yeah,
full
of course.
gear, the whole deal. Because there were some people that in the dunes, the cars got rolled over. There's a couple of Monteros down, but I'm sure they'll get fixed.
Oh, I'm sure.
But there's actually a ton of Montero content. So if you're into Piero Monteros,
Well, I
there's
mean,
a ton of them.
the class has 112 vehicles in it.
Yeah.
So many.
There's a 959,
Yep.
which was really
Super
cool. Bunch of, like I said, Piero Monteros. Did you see the Audis?
I did see all four of them when they
So
launched them
one
up
of
together
them,
one day.
yeah. One of them, I believe, was an original, and then the other ones were copies that they based off that car.
Okay.
So you don't have to have an original Dakar car to run the classic. You just need a
There
car
probably aren't that many left.
no. But there's a lot of old Land Rovers, old Toyotas, Nissans. I saw there was a hard body pickup that was really cool looking.
Yep. The 924 was super cool too.
Mm-hmm. There's a Duchevaux, old Peugeots, old Citroens, like cars, like just stuff that they actually did run back in the day, which is kind of crazy.
Yep.
A lot of them had a lot of trouble with the dunes, which is where you would expect them to have trouble with it because it's the soft sand. But this is like my Dakar dream would be to run this classic. Like that's the way I'd want to drive it.
Sure.
Because I don't need to go flat out, but I want the adventure of doing it and driving around in the desert.
In an old Mitsubishi, of course.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Very, very much. Because that was so not only did they did the 48-hour chrono stage to invoke the history of Dakar, where they'd have no help stage to stage. At the very last stage, they did a mass start, as they used to do back in the day. So they let everybody go in waves. So they had just all the cars going at once,
Which is
pretty
insane.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a cool nod to the actual history of it.
Yeah. And then that's why I want to talk about the bike classes. So they've got Rally GP for bikes, which is the top tier pro level riders. You are like world ranked cross country, off road, dirt bike rider, whatever. That's how you get to get into that. And then the one level down is Rally 2, which maybe you haven't done many Dakars, you don't have a lot of wins, but you're still a high level rider. And then they've got the Motul like Moto Classic, and that is done in the style of the original Dakar, where you're only allowed to bring what you could fit on your bike. They modified it a little bit. They let you bring a case, tools, like 2 sets of wheels, and like some personal items. And then what they'll do is they'll transport those from stage start to stage end for you. But as the rider, you're responsible for all your maintenance. So you have to
no
take care of
mechanic.
your bike. No mechanic. They'll provide you with they've got some support trucks there. I'm sure with air compressors and stuff like that. But mostly it's just all your own tools. You're doing all your own work. So if you really, truly want the adventure of doing Dakar on a bike, that's the class you can do it in. What do you think? You gonna do it on your Royal Enfield?
No, I'm not. I guarantee you, I don't have the riding skill for that. So I think I will skip that. Also, I guarantee you, my Royal Enfield does not have the wheel speed to climb these dunes. So
Watching these guys ride bikes up these dunes, like, and the thing is, like, the rear tire is like skipping sideways at however fast they're going, and they're just like whoop, just like surfing with it is just wild to me, right?
the amount of upper body strength and lower body strength combined to move that 400-pound motorcycle around like that is impressive.
But they're just talking like, one of the guys they're interviewing, they're doing stages sometimes that are 400 kilometers where you're standing on the pegs.
Yeah.
Because you can't sit down. Like, that's just so crazy.
Hey, listen, the trend in work is stand-up desk, so it's the same thing.
Yeah. And a lot of the videos of guys taking big spills and getting hurt, but being okay enough to get up. And then, luckily they've got all the GPS stuff on the bikes. I don't know if any of the stuff that you've watched, if they crash or a car would stop, the thing starts beeping because they want to know that you're okay.
Sure.
And if you don't respond, they come get you. But, sometimes there was one video I was watching. I don't know the guy's name, but he clearly fell off and broke his nose, and it's bleeding all down the front of his shirt. And there's a photographer there that comes over, and she's like, no, you can't. He's like, I want to keep riding. She's like, no, your nose is broken and you probably have a concussion.
Yeah, that was early on. That was like day 2 or 3. I did see that one.
Yeah. And like, you feel bad for them because they're so upset. They just want to keep going because they want to finish it.
Yep.
Because their dream, but it's like, you should really, you can't mess around with a concussion.
No. I mean, listen, sports in general is much safer now than it ever has been, right? Or not safer, but they try to mitigate
pay attention to because there's just if you're riding with a concussion, you can make another mistake that could kill yourself. So it's
okay, so Dakar Classic.
Yep.
You want to do that someday in your life?
Yes.
So the rule with the Dakar Classic is the vehicle has to be a vehicle that has competed in rally raid events pre-2000. So it doesn't need to be a Dakar vehicle, but it does need to be a actual historic race car. And do you want to know what can you guess what the entry fee is?
I bet the entry fee is $5,000.
Well, you're gonna have to save for a few more years than that.
25,000.
17,168 is the equivalent to 16,500 euro. So it's about 17 grand US. So it's not cheap, but also, I mean, listen, people paid 9 grand to do or people paid 13 grand, to do the Copper State Classic. So,
well, that's
not much
just
more than that,
and that's just the entry. That's not.
Of course, that doesn't include the car,
getting your vehicle there,
getting there, and fuel,
having crew,
and tires, and crew, and yes, no, it certainly is not in the realm.
No, I honestly figured in my head, I was like, if I had an extra $250,000, I could probably do it. Just
right,
just $250,000 to burn.
Neither one of us have. Yeah,
no, I don't. But if I had like 250 grand, I could probably do it.
Yeah. I could
have to buy the
I would
car.
just have to continue to pay off my house and then sell it and then have nowhere to live.
Yeah, I could probably buy the car, and then if we're very careful about prepping it, not to spend too much. And then if I could get, I'm sure there's 4 or 5 people I could rope together and not pay them because they'd want to just hang out and do it. I'd pay for everything else.
Yeah, it would be you, me, Jordan, and Andy out there and fixing your car.
Yeah.
Jordan would be your navigator. He's done it before.
And yeah, so I think I can do it on a budget.
All right. Well, when you get that budget, let me know. Again, that's about what this house is worth, or what it cost. I guess it's probably worth more now. But I don't think that Naomi would be down with me selling the house to do 1 2-week trip to Dakar. So
If people want to finally donate to the podcast, that's what I
Yes.
would put it towards.
yes,
All right.
buy us a coffee.
Yeah, buy me a Dakar.
Yeah. Listen, you already have the Montero. You're halfway there.
Yeah. Yeah. Does it have to be a vehicle that competed or a model that competed?
See, that's not
convert it.
clear. That's not clear. It sounds like it has
I
to
think
be an
I would-
actual race car.
I would try to find one of the old V6 long wheelbases that they ran.
Absolutely.
Back in the day.
Either a first gen short wheelbase or a V6. I'd want to do a first gen short wheelbase just because, but
Well, they did run the long wheelbase first gens. I'd
Yeah,
do
but-
that just for more room,
lame.
more stability. It's not lame.
Short wheelbase is the way to go.
Do you see that Italian team? I think I sent you. A really cool one.
Were they driving a Ferrari? I don't know.
No, they're driving a
Montero?
Piero that was in. It was a 2-door. I'll send it to you after. It was cool.
Yeah, that sent to me.
So Dakar's all done, which means this weekend, Rolex 24 and Monte Carlo Rally. So we're back into motorsports season. I'm kind of bummed. I mean, we went last year to Rolex. That was awesome. I'm a little bummed this year because I want to see it in person, because Trackhouse is running a Corvette, which is pretty cool, with SVG and Connor Zilch and some older guy who's a Corvette guy. I can't remember his name. But that should be on, I believe, on Peacock. So should be able to watch that this weekend.
So I won't be watching much of it because it's the final weekend of Arizona Car Week. So there's a bunch of stuff
Okay.
happening this weekend here. So
Well, good for you. It's on 24 hours. So after you come home, you can watch it at night.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, we have a Kyusha Club Saturday morning, and Friday I'm going to Barrett, and also on Saturday I'm going to the Bonhams preview or Bonhams auction because I want to look at those 2 JGTC Skyline race cars that are here, 2 R31 Skylines, that are actual vintage race cars from the JGTC. So
Yeah. It's wild to me that they're going to be in Arizona.
it's wild to me they're going to be here too. Yes, it's wild to me that these 2 like iconic R31 JGTC cars are currently like 15 miles from my house. So
Yeah, you're telling me they're really trying to pop off that Arizona Car Week, huh?
they're trying to make it like basically Monterey, but in Arizona. I was a little irritated because of the cost of some of the events because of that. I wasn't going to pay $120 to go walk around downtown Scottsdale looking at the cars in the
I don't blame you.
concourse.
That's not great.
Yeah. No. I also wouldn't be going to Barrett Jackson on a Friday if I didn't get tickets comped to me because they're $96 each.
Oof.
Yeah, that's not worth it for sure.
And that's not even that's just to watch.
That's just a walk in and walk around the show.
Like you don't get a little paddle to pretend to bid or
Nope.
anything. That's
Can't
just
bid
a
on
walk
anything.
around.
No, it actually doesn't cost much more for a single day bidding pass, I don't think. Because I guess
I would
they figure
hope not,
if
because
you're going to be
you want me
bidding,
to. Yeah. Do you want me to drop $10 grand or more or whatever?
it's hard to spend less than that. I'll tell you that much.
So what? What company? That's not Mecum. Is it
Barrett Jackson.
Barrett Jackson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I'm thinking of that. There was a Mecum auction, right? Recently.
Beacon was
a
in
bunch
Florida.
of
this
JDM
week.
stuff.
Yeah.
That
There's
was
not
like a Honda Civic SI that sold for like $60K or something.
Yeah, 70 grand and a CRX that went for like 60 grand. It's ridiculous.
Crazy.
What is cool at Barrett this year that I want to see is there is another Skyline, but it's like a 81 or 82. So it's that kind of like, it's not a GTR. They didn't have a GTR in that era. They called it a Skyline GT. But it's a custom that was built by Smokey Nagata,
Okay.
as in Top
That
Secret.
sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to see that. I don't know what else is there, but it's a tradition to go walk around there on Friday with some friends here. So we'll make that happen. So I just looked up
That's cool.
Dakar Classic just to kind of give
Yeah.
you an idea here. Eligible vehicles: 4 to 8 wheeled vehicles with bodywork compliant with traffic regulations, and for which
Okay.
a similar model took part in the Dakar Rally up to the 2005 edition, inclusive
Perfect.
or any other rally raid held during this period. However, the organizer reserves the right to select models that have never taken part in rally raids but are deemed historically relevant. They shall be categorized by their period as follows. Period A, vehicles produced before the 1st of January 86. Period B, after January 1st, 86 to December 31st, 98. And period C, vehicles from January 1st, 99 to December 31st, 2004. So
Okay.
that means that you already have a car. So you're good to go.
I do.
Fill that
You
baby
just
up with
gotta
some
rip it apart,
tires.
age it.
And yeah, so there's actually if you go on Dakar's site, there's a whole list of eligible vehicles. And there's some pretty neat stuff. There are pictures of all kinds of historic rally cars that you would not think had participated in Dakar. Like, I just clicked the arrow to see what kind of AMC I could do, and there are pictures of a AMC Eagle 4x4 that competed in Dakar in the 80s.
Oh, weird. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I click on Dodge, and you can use a Ram Charger. I also have a Dakar vehicle,
Yeah. Colt?
a D50.
Yeah. I have a picture in the Mitsubishi Motorsports book of one, a first gen.
So
It's like gray. It's kind of cool.
gray with a black like cap on the back.
Yep, that's the one.
Looking right at it.
Mm-hmm.
Super, super cool. And it has giant
Right?
driving lights, which my car needs. So,
Right?
yep.
I'm telling you, this is like,
All right.
if I ever come into just like $1 million,
Well, if you
we'll
have
just
enough
buy a
money,
couple of these.
if you have enough money,
We'll do a 2-car team.
Yeah, bring me along. I want to bring a car too. So
Yeah, because I know enough people that would come hang out with us and help us out.
yeah,
I'd pay for I'd pay for their airfare, I'd pay for their food,
yeah.
and they just have to hang out with us. I'm paying for their friendship.
Yeah, goddamn, I love this picture of this truck. Now I'm super obsessed. I've got to find tons of pictures of
Right?
the truck.
Super, super cool.
Rad.
And I mean, they raced a lot of them in Australia, like cross country rallies too. So
Yeah. Well, that was tons of Colts there. There's no Colts listed here.
yeah.
Oh, but I bet if I go to Mitsubishi, they have early Lancers, which are Colts.
What?
And-
Go ahead.
Nope, that's nice. I'm good.
I guess we can do we haven't done a little scale autocast in a while, so we can catch up with that.
Oh, what do you got? I haven't done anything.
Yeah, I've been working on the Orlando Hunter kit.
Okay.
I got from Tiny 4x4, larger, well, wheels and tires that are actually more scale to 1/24 scale. Because I did some measurements and I found them on their site. And the Orlando Hunter has a specific drive pattern on the wheels. So this tiny 4x4 company made their own aluminum wheels that look like JDM, like 10 holes or 20 hole, like billet wheels.
They look like Enki. There's a name for 'em. But yeah, they look like period correct Enkis.
Yeah. And the tire looks like little Yokohama Geolanders or BFGs kind of. But I measured them compared to the kit, the Tamiya kit that I'm trying to put the body on it from, and they're like within 1 millimeter of the kit tire. So they look really good on there. And then I sent you some pictures the other night. I was test fitting because I was trying to think about how I'm going to mount the body. And I was like, well, I think I'm just going to put the body on the interior because it's got a full interior, right? So I'm just going to put the body on the interior bucket and then sit on the chassis and see what happens. And it fits nearly perfectly.
Yeah,
like I'm going to have to take the servo out of the mount because it's like kind of in the middle. Like it'd be in the driver's side footwell of a left-hand drive car, the way where it's sitting on the chassis. So I'm going to like pop it out and trace where it is using the chassis hole onto the interior floor pan. And then I'll have to get my little Dremel and cut it out.
That's the steering servo?
And it's the steering servo. Yep. It's up in the middle of the chassis almost. And it should then fit down over it. And I think maybe I'll just attach, I'll just use magnets to attach it.
Interesting.
The interior bucket to the chassis.
Yep.
And then I can use some magnets to attach the body to the interior bucket because I can just fill in with some styrene inside the body.
And you could probably modify a kit, some kit that has a driver cat figure to like hide the steering servo pretty well too, I bet.
I think it might end up being under the dashboard and in front of the seat. So
just cut the guy's legs off.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. And then I got to figure out, I think I can make the battery fit under the interior bucket above the frame, like where the fuel tank would be on the real truck. So, because I don't think I can get a smaller battery pack than that 2S. It's a very small battery pack already. I'm not sure if they make one smaller. I can try to find one because I don't really need like a super long battery life because it's got brushless and it's so small. It should last a while anyways.
Yeah, it probably will last a ton of time anyway.
Yeah, it fits and it looks closer than it has any right to be for like making it fit. So that's kind of cool. I took the axial. Sorry, it's not the axial. The Element Utron. And I got a bunch of parts for that to shorten the wheelbase. I got the links that I need, all that stuff. I'm going to work on that. I'm trying to make little videos for it too, because there's not really any videos on how to do this to this specific chassis.
Okay.
It didn't come, I think I mentioned, it didn't come with any bearings. It just has all bushings. So annoyingly, this is why I want kits, because I have to take the whole thing apart now and put bearings in it.
Add bearings.
And it's like, well, I could have just built it with bearings to begin with.
For sure.
So I got a bearing set for it. I have the links to shorten the wheelbase to 313 millimeter. I got Injora. I think they call it Injora.
Yeah.
They are like the revolver wheels. They're aluminum. They again look like JDM type of Anki wheels. But then I was able to combine them with Proline makes a 1.9 size scale BFG.
Okay.
KO2. Like it's perfect. It's a perfect KO2. So, and I've got the long wheelbase Montero body to go on it, and it looks great. So, like it nearly fits on the chassis as is. It's just the wheelbase is a little bit off, and it needs to be shorter. So that's going to be really cool. I got to figure out how to mount that with the body mounts and using some magnets, but that should be a pretty cool, easy, decent project to do.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. See it done. I want to finish doing a 1/24 scale model to RC build as well. I don't even know what to do with it when it's done. I just want to have it done. So
yeah, I'll drive around a couple times. I'm not going to really like drive it hard. I have other RCs to bash around, but I just want this one to look cool because I've seen a couple like it on the internet. Oh, you know, the other thing I grabbed was I saw these advertised somewhere, probably on Instagram, called Joe Ropes. Because so me and Marco were playing with one of the RC cars, and I let him have he's using the Futaba controller, and he was holding it, and I let go of it, and then he just dropped it
Sure.
into the dirt. I was like, cool, bud. I was like, you were holding that. So these Joe Ropes are just somebody, this guy, his name is Joe. They're made in the USA. He just takes paracord, and they're not very expensive. I'm not going to learn how to make them.
Sure.
It just makes a little loop out of paracord with a buckle, and then another loop that goes around the base of the controller. And it also has a magnet woven into it and a little detachable clip. So if you want to take the body off with body clips, you can put them on the magnet so you don't lose them while you're outside.
That's cool.
And then you can let the controller just hang by your side. You don't have to put it on the ground or put it anywhere where it's going to fall on the ground. And yeah, it's pretty cool because I bought one sling that like goes over your shoulder or around your neck, and then he sells them separately. You can buy, because I have multiple controllers now because of these silly RTR kits. You can buy individual controller loops for like $10. So I have a couple controller loops for the different controllers, so I don't drop them, which is kind of cool.
That's cool. I have not seen that, but it's a product that makes sense. So,
yeah, because basically there's so many people that use these as trail trucks and crawler trucks, and he was like, "Oh, I was just tired of seeing people like put their controller down on like a rock and then it gets knocked over and breaks." So, it's interesting too because they also make like little straps to like go around in the axle of a truck, so you could like loop the front axle and then carabiner it to your backpack.
I was going to say, wear it like a necklace.
Yeah. So kind of cool little product.
No, that's neat. I have not had the experience because I don't have a small child at home, so I haven't not worried about it. But I do get it.
I also did get my the bodies I ordered from England, the Lexan bodies, actually did show up just after Christmas or just before Christmas. I've got a Premier body, P10, because I want to make it, and because I want to make it worthwhile spending the money on shipping. I also got an 850 wagon body, which basically looks like it must have been a similar mold to the one that I had back in the day. And
The same inaccuracies.
I bought an yeah, a little bit. Maybe it's a little nicer. I have to look at it closer again. The Premier does have a big mold line that was hard to see in the ad. That's kind of annoying. But I also got an Evo 6 body just to put on the TTO2 chassis. Just something a little different.
Excellent.
That's
I feel
my
like
scale autocast.
I feel like I'm slacking because I don't have any scale autocast to talk about. And I haven't
I've got a bunch of diecast.
MERC
really
stuff.
Put some pictures up of them.
Yeah, I have to take pictures of that Cressida that I got too. It's just sitting here on my desk. I haven't taken pictures of it yet. So get back into it this year. So I think it's an episode.
Yeah, I got a bunch of new mini GTs I'll take some pictures of. But anyway. Yeah, I think that's a cool episode, right?
Sure.
So we're back. Sure. Thanks for the confidence.
Nothing is cool. Everything is terrible.
It is. It's like cool to be uncool, right? It's the paradox.
Yeah. Well, I'm really good at being uncool.
Anyway. All right. Well, you can follow us. We're Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook. Auto Off Topic on Instagram and Threads. And I'm Racing Anger on Instagram and Threads. And Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at TSISS350 and at the same on Threads. And don't forget to follow Scale Autocast on Instagram.
And if you're interested, come join the Discord. Because we have a lot of cool people in there talking about cool stuff. I actually just, if you play...
Bunch of really chill guys.
Play EA, yeah, let's just chill guys. If you play EAWRC, we've got an auto off topic club. I just did for this weekend. It goes for 10 days. I did a 90s Group A Monty rally. So you can go join that club if you're not in there, or go play it if you haven't played in a while. And if you try to join the club, just drop me a message somewhere and I'll let you in. All right. Anything else, Brad?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, cool. Keep cards analog and name the roses.